become your best pal when she's here.
Who's here?
She's here,
Doris dear.
It's Doris with a cocktail in hand. She's the perfect housewife and her Rumpus Room might have a band.
It does? Yeah, maybe.
It's Doris and her dear friends. They live up in the sky, but for the chance to sing and dance, her friends might also buy. It's Doris. It's Doris dear. She's that girl on the street. She'll show up with a sweet little door when she knocks on your door. Press her on. It's Doris dear's Girl Talk.
Hi, dears. Welcome to the premiere episode of Season 2 of Doris Dear's Girl Talk. I'm your hostess, Doris Dear, otherwise known as America's Perfect Housewife. So good to see you back in the Rumpus Room. Has this been a year? Wow, well, we never expected the world to change so quickly, did we? You know, my mother Taffy told me that when time goes quickly, it's because you're getting old. Well, there you go. Now, this season's shows are going to be so much fun, and we have some great guests lined up for you. Of course, there will always be cocktail recipes, and this season, they're all based on old Hollywood stars. Starting to think old is the theme. Well, I'm going to be sharing some hilarious thoughts also from a favorite book of mine, written by a Hollywood star in 1965, the one and only. Always Ask a Man, Arlene Dahl's Key to Femininity. Just wait till you hear this stuff. Now, before we go any further, I have to show you a little something I received, a very special gift from my nephews, who are big fans of Auntie Doris Dear. I was so ecstatic when I saw this, and I just had to share it with you. I now present my nephews, Cooper and Connor.
Doris, it's Doris dear. She's a glamorous gal, she'll become your best pal, and she's here. Who's here? She's here, Doris dear. Doris, with a cocktail in hand. She's the perfect housewife, and her Rumpus Room might have a band. It does? Well, maybe. It's Doris and her dear friends. They live up in the sky, but for the chance to sing and dance, her friends might all stop by. It's Doris. It's Doris dear. She's that girl on the street. She'll show up with a treat. You'll adore when she knocks on your door. Punch her clock. It's Doris Dear's Girl Talk.
How cute are they? Well, isn't that just wonderful? I mean, stars in the making. Guess it runs in the family. You know, music has truly played a special part of this pandemic. Artists started singing from their apartments, their kitchens, and in front of shower curtains while quarantining and, well, finding ways to make their art live. Now, of course, music was a big part of growing up on Staten Island with my parents, Taffy and Duke. There was always music playing in the Rumpus Room, darlings. Lots of big band albums and CBS Masterworks Broadway albums. Of course, my sister Nancy would be waiting to hear the call when Taffy would call her down to the party and have her sing her best rendition of Chattanooga Choo Choo. She'd stand on that cocktail table down there and do her bit, and, well, it was always met with a rousing cheer from the crowd. And, of course, she'd always return upstairs with some yummy treats from the buffet that Taffy would put out. As the great Jane Austen said, without music, life would be blank to me. How true. Thanks, Jane. So I hope you're ready for a fun Season 2 of Doris Dear's Girl Talk. Mix up a great cocktail, sit back, get comfy, and tune in each week for a little bit of fun. And don't forget, you can find all the stories on my website at www.dorisdear.com/Gurl, Gurl, -talk. All one word. Oh, who could that be?
Hello? Thank you. Thank you, life.
Okay, masks off. We're safe. We're COVID safe. All vaccinated and all that in the Rumpus Room. Hi, Gregg Barnes.
This is nice to see you.
My God, Broadway designer, costumer to the best shows, the best of everything. You're amazing. Thank you for coming to the Rumpus Room.
I'm thrilled to be with you.
And you know, we have our little cocktail today.
Here we
Now,
go.
I made a special one for you. So, this is a Ginger Rogers. It's a 1934 drink. Mine is made with mint and vodka and ginger, and I made you a limeade, non-alcoholic limeade with ginger beer.
There you go.
So I thought that's kind of good. So let's
ritzy.
cheers. Here's to Ginger Rogers.
Here's
and
to Ginger
Here's to Gregg
Rogers.
Barnes in the Rumpus Room.
Amazing.
Darling. Cheers.
Wow, it's delicious.
Well, there's always good daytime drinking.
When I was,
Here we are.
I used to teach at NYU, and I had one of my best friends from childhood worked in publishing, and Ginger Rogers, a couple years before she passed, had written a book, and I said, "Oh my God, if you get her autograph for me," so he did, and I had this autograph, and we put it on a wall of like fake autographed photos. Like we had Mr. T, and then there was Ginger Rogers. There was the only actual one.
But sort of like every deli you go in New York.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then none of the kids knew who she was. But one day, our students came in and said, "Oh, my previous teacher was devastated today because Ginger Rogers passed away." And I said, "You're not going to believe it, but that's the only actual autograph on this wall, and it really is her. Take this and give it
my
to."
gosh.
So we passed it forward to somebody who loved her.
Oh, well, that's what we do in theater. We pass it forward, right?
That's our job.
I'm not sure what we're passing forward today, but we're going to find out. All right, Gregg Barnes, are you ready? Wikipedia is very, is our friend. MFA in Design from NYU, undergraduate degree from San Diego University. Where are you originally from?
San Diego.
Oh, San Diego. Oh, no, New York now.
Yeah, no, I'm in New York.
You grew up, if I only read the next line. Grew up in San Diego, California. And credits seeing the ice shows, the circus, and a production of As You Like It in San Diego as a youth as inspiring him.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Can I tell another
Well,
sort of
please.
tragic tale?
Yeah.
A great tale. I went to see As You Like It, directed by the amazing Jack O'Brien, and Patricia Connolly played Rosalind, and I, of course, had no idea who she was, but she changed my life. She turned me from a Shakespeare loather to a Shakespeare fanatic.
Wow.
And probably, I'm going to say 30 years later, I'm doing this little Ray Cooney farce out at the paper mill, and Patricia Connolly is in it. And I hear her voice in rehearsal, and I can't add up why I'm about to burst into tears just hearing her talk. And then it dawns on me, oh my God, it's Rosalind.
Oh my God.
And so I got a chance to tell her, hey, you changed my life. And she really did.
Wow.
She set me on a course.
See, it's like full circle all the time. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love those kind of stories, especially in theater. And you taught at NYU for quite a while.
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah. In undergraduate school.
Resident costume. You just mentioned paper mill. Are you still the resident costume designer?
No, I left there. Literally, I did Follies there, which was very acclaimed for especially a regional theater production.
Yeah.
And then I stopped. My life was going off on different...
Well, because you're so famous on Broadway, darling. I mean, let's just run through the credits, shall we?
Do we have time?
I don't know. Sideshow, Flower Drum Song, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Drowsy Chaperone, Legally Blonde, To Be and Not to Be, Bye Bye Birdie, Follies, Elf the Musical, Kinky Boots, Aladdin, Something Rotten, Tuck Everlasting, Mean Girls, Pretty Woman.
I've never actually counted them. We won't stop and do it, but that's interesting. Because that was a longer list than I thought.
12, 30, 40, 15, I think.
15.
Wow. You go,
Been
darling.
busy.
Two-time winner of the Drama Desk Award for Follies and Drowsy Chaperone.
Mm-hmm.
Two amazing shows. And beautiful. Three-time nominee. Outer Critics Award Costume Design, Drowsy Chaperone. 5 times nominee, 1-time winner. Tony Award, 2-time winner, Drowsy and Follies. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what made you want what made you want to do costume design out of all of the stuff? What was that moment where you said, that's my lane. This is where I need to go.
You know, as a kid, I was somebody who didn't have really a direction. I loved stories, and I was definitely in my room, you know, making believe, but I didn't really have a way to express that.
Right.
And I got to college, and I was a lit major. I wasn't a design major. And I started dabbling and hanging out in the costume shop, because all the funnest people are always
Best
in the
place to
costume
be.
shop. It's always the Island of Misfit Toys down there. Yeah. It's always in the basement. And I loved it there. And the master, the teacher that taught the MFA kids in design said, hey, we have this guest artist coming in to interview our MFA students, and I think you should go. And I was like, what am I going to talk about with a designer? I don't even know what you're talking about. And the amazing thing about this is that Kathy and Jimmy, if you know.
Of course,
the legendary Kathy and Jimmy.
And didn't you do her show?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was my best friend, and we were going to go have lunch. And I said, oh, look, I have to go to this interview. Can you, do you want to hang out? And, you know, it'd probably take 2 seconds. I have no idea why I'm even going in there. So I go in. It's the designer Robert Morgan, who did the Full Monty on Broadway and the Grinch, and, you know, his legendary guy. And he said, oh my God, you have to go to New York. And I had no idea what he was talking about. But when I left the room, my friend Kathy, she was sitting on the floor. I could still picture it. She had like a tie-dyed skirt on from the swap meet. And she said, she was crying a little bit. And I thought, you know, what's the matter? And she said, that was amazing. That guy just said that it showed you a window into the kind of life most of us want to live, where you could go to the place we all want to go and have a chance at. So because of his belief in me and her support, I went home and said, hey, to my folks, I think I'm going to go to New York. And they were like, of course, like, baby, you got to earn a living. They didn't see that.
Do that on the side.
That's right.
But go get a business degree.
That's right.
And then you can always teach.
That's right. That's right. So I packed up my little suitcase, and a couple years later.
That's so much about, I think, everyone who continues in. I've been in my career full-time for 42 years. I'm so lucky, doing so many different things. It blows my mind sometimes how many things you have to do to survive, right?
Yeah.
Everything in this business anymore. But it always boils down to somebody saying, I believe in you. I think this is what you should do. And if you're open to life and you take that journey, it's amazing where it can end up. And I always say there's no such thing as failure. Like in theater, so many people say, oh, I failed. I left the business. I failed. Nobody fails. It's none of it is a failure.
That's right.
It's ups and downs, and you either can do that or not. And we all want different things, but it's never a failure. I think if you've stepped on stage once in your whole life, that's amazing, because that teaches you so much about who we are.
Absolutely.
But it's about those people, like, and we talk a lot with my other artists that come in, like, how we all want to give back. Like, I work a lot with my union at SAG-AFTRA, trying to make it better for the kids coming in their 20s now, so they don't have to put up with the kind of crap I had to put up with back then. A little bit of that. But you know, it's a journey, and I just want to make it better for them, because I had people through my theater and my television career and cabaret, there was always been these people who say, I got you back. And man, if you have that,
absolutely,
you gotta,
absolutely,
you have to go for it.
You know, tagging on to what you just said, this is another Robert Morgan story. Ironically, the summer before I moved to New York, I was stitching at the Old Globe, and I was so green.
So wait, you were stitching. So what is that? You're like sewing. You're making buttonholes.
Sewing. I couldn't make a buttonhole. I was not that. Please.
You're just running it through the machine.
I was calm and
here, Greg, straight seam.
Everything they gave me, I broke. You know. And one day, I see Robert Morgan, the designer. He was doing Romeo and Juliet with Tova Feldshuh, directed by Jack O'Brien, and I'm ruining every costume they've given me to stitch. And I see him coming down the row of the stitchers, and he's giving everybody a little pep talk or a little well done. And I thought, oh my God, when he gets to me, this will be my last day. This is it. Here I go. Well, it's been fun.
Yeah.
And he put his arm on my shoulder. I can still almost sense memory, feel it. And he said, wow, what you're doing is the kind of care and detail that is going to make this magical. And I thought, if I ever get to be him, I'm going to remember this moment, and I'm going to try to pay forward. I'm not saying I always do, but I aspire to be that kind of generous.
Right, when the moment is there for us to give that generosity out, hopefully we do that.
That's it.
Doesn't always work that way. Sometimes I'm not feeling so generous. But there are those moments where you're able to do it in an atmosphere that's right, and you try to, and that's a kind of a good feeling that like kind of enriches their soul a little. Like, look at me, I'm being nice. I'm good.
That's true.
What they say is not true at all. Okay, so we talked about, before we came on camera, those drag costumes and kinky boots. What I would kill to have that damn beef eater. I just want to staff and go, do what I said. Those girls.
And you're one of the few people that could wear the shoes without training. You know,
Hello. No training needed, honey. No training. Now, we talked about Kathy and Jimmy. You did the Kathy and Mo show.
Yeah.
1989,
yeah.
was that? Yeah, the West Side Arts Theater. I remember that was fantastic.
Wasn't it a great show?
Yeah, I love her. We have to have her on the show. Cinderella, Merry Widow, you never know. Like, you've done so much stuff. It'd like go. So, Follies. Okay. Now, I was over at the studios in Long Island City, where it's the Hollywood of New York. And, you know, it's like massive over there. You're like wandering around. I think I ran into Big Bird over at Sesame Street. I don't know. It's like the crazy thing, and I don't even remember what I was filming. I was going back to my dressing room, and it's like this dark hallway.
Yeah.
And there's this glass case. Yeah. With Gregg Barnes, Broadway Follies. Was it the swan? Was it a swan or a peacock?
It's an enormous peacock bird. Yeah.
With two, like here. In a glass case, just in the middle of it. I'm like looking around like, is this the Broadway section? Like, what's going on? And just sitting there. And I just sat there. I took lots of pictures. We're going to be showing them. It was so beautiful, that costume. The detail, like you talk about when he said to you, that kind of care and detail. I mean, those costumes, it's one thing to experience them, obviously, on a stage. You're sitting... Well, I'm usually sitting in the third balcony, but I need a comp. No, but when you're sitting there and from stage and you're seeing the whole effect, it's very different than that close-up of all the detail. And what I so love about your costumes, it's so many layers, so many patterns. It's a stripe on a plaid, on a paisley, and somehow it works, like, which blows my mind, because I'm just trying to pick a pocket square. I'm thinking, oh no, stripes and paisley, and you do all these layers and the custom, and then the beading and the stoning. I'm like, I'm a girl who likes to do
know, I see.
But that costume, I remember just staring at it. Like, I took so many pictures because I was just like, wow.
Well, you know, that was made by, her name is Killer. That's not her real name. Her name is Mary Ann, but she goes by Killer.
Of course she does.
And she is a genius. I mean, you know, you don't use that word lightly, but she is one. People would know her work from the Victoria's Secret Fashion Show because she does a lot of the wings, or did a lot of the wings. And the funny thing about that costume is that I got 2 stabs at that because I had done the show at the Paper Mill in 2001 or 2000, because I used to be the resident designer there. And so when I got called to do it at the Kennedy Center, because it wasn't a Broadway budget, it was a nice budget for a regional experience, but it was nowhere near what you need to do with Follies. So I said to Eric Schaefer, the director who had called me, I said, look, you know, I've done this before, and I don't want to be, you know, dirtying the conversation with my past with this, but if you're open, let's talk. If you're open to, let me just get your thoughts. And if I can use any of the things that were from the Paper Mill, then we could collectively get more for our money.
Because you can build upon what exists.
Exactly. So that pannier, that bird pannier, had been made for the Paper Mill. And all the rest of the costumes were rented from New York City Ballet there. So,
Of course.
but by using that. So anyway, a lot of the mirror number was from the paper mill, and and then who would have thought it would come to Broadway, but it did. And
Beautiful.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So, explain something as a designer for like a Broadway show. I mean, as we said, there's a big difference standing a foot away from someone wearing a costume and linking it, and sort of knowing how is that going to look 10 rows back, 30 rows back, up in a balcony. How do you as a designer, when you're, explain that sort of process for me. Like, how do you figure that out? I mean, that's why you're so famous and such a legend, because you have figured it out, obviously. But explain that, because I think people just assume, oh, they made a costume, stuck it on stage.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Well, I've been lucky because I've done the circus, I've done ice shows, and that's a 15,000 member audience, and I've done off Broadway, and I used to do the Christmas show every year with the Rockettes, and that's a 6,000 seat house. And I realized the thing I hate the most is when people say, don't bother with that because it's not going to read. And I always think until it's on a bus in Times Square or in a billboard 50 feet tall. And I'm not interested in doing the lowest common denominator.
Right.
And I want that actor, dancer, performer to feel the energy that I've, channeled into the thing to help them do their job.
Right, because I sometimes think that people not involved don't realize what wearing as an actor, when you put that piece of clothing on, otherwise known as a costume, how it affects how you approach it as an actor and how it changes your on stage, how you walk, how you present. It's really important.
Yeah. And it's the game. I mean, that's my job, is to make you feel. And I actually, even the word costume, sometimes I get a little bit like costumes are for trick or treat and clothes are for people that inhabit stories to tell on a stage.
I wear clothes.
You wear clothes. That's right. That's right. So, but I love details. And actually, you always have to manage the financial against the artistic, and
Yeah.
But I always think, even if I have to channel this much energy of my this much budget into this, I would rather have this thing be exquisite and I'll get the rest of it on Etsy and do it myself to make the total picture be a beautiful picture. But so I don't ever take, and if I feel like the parameters of that financial part of your head are too stringent, I just pass. I can't.
Right.
I'm not interested anymore in.
Well, you're also, darling, you're in a place where you can make passes because there's always something else coming. And I have to say, something rotten, those costumes. Well, first of all, can we talk about the cod pieces? There's just something about those cod pieces on those boys.
Why did they go away?
But those costumes, I think I saw that show like 2 or 3 times. And I sat, I got house seats, which means you're like in the best seat in the house. And those costumes, talk about pattern.
Yeah,
but they were fantastic. I mean, the boots, the leather, everything. It just makes those actors walk unlike they would walk in a tuxedo.
Yeah.
It just becomes so much a part of it. The whole thing was fantastic. That whole show was just fantastic.
I'll tell you a codpiece story if I can, with apologies to...
Yes.
Okay, so Ryan Vandenboom, who's an absolutely spectacular talent, was in the ensemble of Something Rotten, and we were in tech, and he kept fumbling and touching, and he was very engaged with this codpiece. And I kept saying to my assistants, do you think there's something wrong? Is there a pin, or why is he? And so I went up to him on a break. He was standing on the stage, and I said, Ryan, is everything, okay down there? And he says, I feel like I'm 3 years old and just discovering myself for the first time.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my God. It's like, oh. Wow. Grinder's going to love me this month.
What is this for?
Oh my God. This is so awesome. I mean, Radio City Music Hall, I mean, You know, I worked for Disney for many years, so Radio City seems like a cousin of Disney, like in many ways. And then I worked in Las Vegas in Jubilee, which those costumes we wore, every night I would put on, you know, and my showgirls on either side of me wearing, you know, like it's that kind of costume.
That's some other level. That's about, is that Bob Mackie?
It was Bob Mackie, who would come like every once a year and be like, she needs new rhinestones. I need the biggest ones cut in France. Get them over here. It was such great stuff.
I have a little story about Bob.
Oh.
I mean, when I was, after this meeting where I decided to be a designer, my friend Kathy Najimy said to me, who would you like to meet? And I said, anybody? And she said, yeah, anybody. I said, Bob Mackie. And she said, really? You don't want to meet the president? Or I said, maybe I'll get to meet the president, but right now at this week time in my life, I want to meet Bob Mackie. And she is a magical person. And one day my phone rings in El Cajon, California, East San Diego, and it's Bob Mackie.
Wow.
And he says, hey, you know, it was my birthday or something, and he invited me to go up. This was right before I came to New York. And he said, do you want to come up and have an interview? And I couldn't believe it. And I got up there, and the reason that he was so intrigued with me wasn't because of me. I think it was because he kept saying, who is this Kathy Najimy? She's like a force of, he said, you don't know, I have all these people to keep people away from me.
And she got in.
And she got in the door. And the thing that I'll never forget, and always, you know, with my heart brimming with love for Bob Mackie, is that he sat down with me, who knew nothing, and treated me like a colleague for an hour. And
that's great.
Yeah.
That's so nice. And he was so nice to us at Jubilee when he would come. I mean, those are great moments. And I will say you gave me one of those moments, because when I decided to get into producing commercial theater, I got in touch with you and I said, I know this is crazy. I am learning the ropes. I want to know more about costuming. You were like, yeah, come in.
Yeah.
You were so generous. And we sat there and you took me in the shop and we sat in that room that you have set up to show, like, it's very fancy. I was like, I'm like at an atelier in Paris, in this fabulous room surrounded by the beauty known as Gregg Barnes costuming.
Well, I thought no producer has ever called me and said, hey, what's your process? Or I'd love to talk about.
Yeah.
So I was, you know, equally.
Well, I thought it was great. And so I'd like to ask, so when you're in the process of development, for people who don't know, it takes almost 7 years from start to finish to get a show to Broadway, if it ever gets there. It's a very long creative process. A lot of creative minds are put together. The producer is the one who sort of facilitates that gathering, and is also the one who tries to calm the nerves and calm the fight, and also sometimes make tough decisions.
Yeah.
But have you ever been faced with, like, what happens if you've done the costumes and it's up there and you're out of town or even getting ready for Broadway and they go, it just doesn't work, you've got to cut that costume or change it. Like, what happens? Like, how do you deal with that?
It happens on every show I've ever done. So it's, you know, you develop a little bit of an armor about it. And if I'll talk about Kinky Boots if that's okay, because we went to Chicago for our out of town, and we cut the opening on the Angels. We tweaked a million things, but on the drag characters, we cut their opening look. They had another look where the number was cut. They had a third look where the number was cut. So all these clothes are getting cut.
Oh, wow.
But the thing about that experience, and this is really because of Jerry Mitchell's huge heart, is that I never once felt like, oh, I'm going to get fired, or boy, I messed this up, or everything was a collective, we made a mistake, and let's move forward. And the thing that I learned about it is that even though I have a night of, you know, horrible, you know, railing at the gods and tears, I have to put my, you know, my codpiece on it in the morning, go out and solve the problem.
Wait, I want to see that. Can I see that?
But the actors, for them, it's a harder thing.
It's devastating.
It's devastating.
When you have a number cut from a show.
That's right.
And, you know, as artists, even when you're at the top of your game and the top of all of that, we still take it personally because art is such a personal experience. Whether you're an actor, a costume designer, a writer, anything that it's such a personal experience doing all of that. It's why we do it. And when it works, especially, it's why it works because it's such a part of who we are. So when someone says, we got to cut that, it's like,
yeah, it's hard.
And then, of course, it's, oh, am I not good?
Yeah.
Am I not good enough?
That's right.
Are they going to fire me? My partner always says, really? They're not going to fire you. And by the way, you pay the bills. So, oh, right, I forgot that part.
That's right.
But it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really
well,
hard.
you know, when that happened, it's funny that you brought up the Beefeater costume because that garment was made for Paul Kanan, another legendary dancer and human. And they were all very, I don't want to say upset, I think they were just sad.
Yeah.
And he organized a little cocktail party about 4 days after. We were frantically trying to fill in the blanks, and it was very creative, and I think, you know, people were like, oh, this is going to be great, but I loved my old, you know, there was that push-pull, and we went and we had this cocktail party with all the angels, and we kind of laid those costumes to rest. Long may they, you know.
Roll them up.
That's right.
Send them to the rental companies.
That's right. That's right. And moved forward. So
Yeah.
bless Paul and all of those guys. They were.
Sometimes I just get tired of moving forward, Greg.
That's
And
it.
on that note, I think we're done. Let's take a cheers to moving forward to what's next, whatever that may be, whenever we get to come back from this crazy year.
There you go.
Thank you for coming to the Rumpus Room.
My
Gregg Barnes.
pleasure.
Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Bar Cart, the place where we make the cocktails we drink here in the Rumpus Room. Now on today's show, we saluted the old Hollywood stars through cocktails by enjoying a refreshing new favorite. Now this drink has many variations, but it's based on the original drink, which was called The Favorite Cocktail, from one of the first drink books ever published, Drinks by Jacques Straub. Now, Jacques Straub was the wine steward of the Blackstone Hotel and considered one of the foremost wine experts in the world. For 32 years, Mr. Straub studied wine and its making from every conceivable angle. He made wine and distillation a life study. Originally from Switzerland, he came to the U.S. and became the wine steward and club manager of the famous Pendennis Club of Louisville, Kentucky, where he was employed for over 20 years. Now, you may remember that we talked about the Pendennis Club last season when I presented my Doris Dear Old Fashioned variation. The Old Fashioned is considered by many to be invented at the Pendennis Club. So, wait, does that mean that Mr. Strauss invented the Old Fashioned? Could be. Now, when the Blackstone Hotel of Chicago was built, Mr. Straub was asked to establish their wine cellars so he could continue his career there. In 1913, he wrote the book Drinks and became one of the first true cocktail recipe books widely sold. This slim little book contains over 700 recipes, including a surprising number of drinks that were thought to have been invented much later. Oh, it's a great one. Now, as always, I like creating my own versions of the drinks I love, and I created a special version, the Doris Dear Ginger Rogers. This is a refreshing take on a drink that has many variations, but I do love it. It's often been said that Ginger Rogers had a certain earthiness to her, and well, so does this great drink. Just like the famous actress and Fred Astaire partner, this drink slides across your taste buds like a waltz on a Hollywood glass floor. So let's get on with it. Ladies and gentlemen, I present the Doris Dear Ginger Rogers. Now, you will need several sprigs of fresh mint, some lime juice, 1½ ounces of dry gin, and ginger beer. Now, for those looking for a lighter ginger beer with a deeper flavor and 46% less calories, I like using this Fever Tree Refreshingly Light Ginger Beer. It has less sugar and no artificial sweeteners. I also like their light tonic water for all my tonic-based drinks as well for the same reasons. Now, we are going to crush or muddle, as they say with the pros, the mint leaves in the lime juice. And I'm using my bone spoon to do that. Releases that wonderful fragrance. We add that to a glass full of nice cold ice. We pour the gin over the ice. Oh, it smells so good. And we fill with ginger beer. And cheers, my friends. A great, fresh, earthy cocktail for those Hollywood evenings. Well, or days if you like. Well, I hope you enjoyed your stay in the Rumpus Room today. I love when my friends drop by and we share some fun ideas and bring some joy to the world. Don't forget, head over to www.dorisdeer.com/girl-talk for all the recipes and hints from today's show. Oh, I hope you'll drop by the Rumpus Room again, and for more of Doris Deer's Girl Talk, stay safe and hugs and love from Doris Deer. And remember, a dress doesn't get you anywhere. It's the life you live in the dress that matters. See you soon. Cheers. Oh. Dance with me. I'm ready to dance, are you?
It's Doris. It's Doris Deer. She's that girl on the street. She'll show up with a sweet little Doris.